Part 2, the meat. How do you play the game? The first thing you need to know when you play this game is that in this game you're not a color. You're not blue or green. You're a symbol. Your choices are lion, donkey, vase, and bow. You will have one leader of each color. The leaders are the wooden discs with your symbol in the 4 different colors. So pick them up as I tell you about them. The first one is your black piece. The black piece is a king. I have a black crowd. The blue piece is a farmer. Water my crops. The red piece is a priest. Praise the great God Ketchup. And the green piece is a trader. Limes for sale. And you will try to have these pieces on the board to score respective points from those leaders. The green piece will help you score the green cubes, the red piece will help you score the red cubes, etc. You have a screen. The screen is to hide how many points you have, and the 6 tiles. You will have 6 tiles, and you'll always refresh back to 6 at the end of every turn. The tiles will be black settlements, red temples, green markets, and blue farms. And purple horseshoes! No purple horseshoes. You also will be allowed to cause 2 catastrophes during the game. And so you get 2 of those catastrophe tiles to use sometime during the game. Those go in front of your screen so people know whether or not you've used them yet. As I mentioned in the hook, on your turn, you'll be doing 2 actions. For each action, you get 4 choices. Play a tile, move or play a leader, play a catastrophe, or sweep your tiles. Usually, like I said, you're either going to be dropping 2 tiles on the board or maybe 1 tile and one of your leaders, and that's it. That's your whole turn. So the turns move rather quickly. After your turn is done, you always draw back up to 6 tiles. So that's easy enough to understand. So why are you playing all this stuff? Alright, you want to score points, which are the colored cubes. You can score points in 3 major ways. You get points for laying tiles on the board, having your leaders next to the right colored monuments, and winning conflicts between leaders. I'll go over each one in detail. But before getting into those things, I need to define the word kingdoms. In laying tiles, you'll be creating kingdoms. Anytime you have a group of tiles that are adjacent to each other, and there's at least one leader there, it is called a kingdom. Now, in this game, being adjacent means you have to be orthogonally adjacent. That means side to side or up and down. Being diagonal is never considered adjacent in this game. So you want to start a kingdom on your first turn. For your first action, you'll need a leader to make the kingdom. So say, for example, you put down your green trader. Limes for sale! You take that green trader and you put him next to one of those starting red temple tiles on the board. Leaders always need to be next to a temple. You can't put them down unless they are adjacent to a temple. And if that temple goes away, so does the leader. The leaders must have religious support, perhaps from the great god Ketchup. And that is why they must be connected to those temples. Remember that. It's very important. Then, for your second action on a turn, you might want to add a tile to that kingdom to score a point. Since I played a green trader, limes for sale, he scores me a point when I add a green market tile to the kingdom. So I take my green market tile from behind the screen, and I place it adjacent to any tile or leader in that kingdom, making the kingdom larger. And hooray! I score a green point, and that is my first turn. I get a green point because I laid a green tile in the kingdom and I had the green leader in that kingdom. So that was my first turn. I laid the wooden leader, I laid the tile, I scored a point. That's it. I'll draw another tile to replace it, so I'll have 6 more tiles. Now, I could have done the same thing with the blue farmer if I laid a farm in that kingdom and scored a blue point, or with the red leader, with temples, etc. Now, there's some finer rules about laying tiles, leaders, and scoring points. As I said, leaders must be placed adjacent to a temple. Leaders can't be put in rivers. Apparently, they cannot swim. The only thing that can be played in the river is blue farm tiles. Because remember, the farmer says, "Water my crops." Two of the leaders have special abilities. The Black King leader, I have a black crown, can score points of any color. For example, in my first example that I did earlier, say I laid the Black King instead of the Green Traitor. I have a black crown, and I placed him on the board. And then I did the same thing. I took my green market tile and added it to that kingdom. I'm still allowed to get a green point because that's the special ability of the Black King piece. Now, if I wanted to play a black tile there, I could still get a black point instead. But I always only get 1 point per tile lay. So say I had the Black King there and the Green Traitor Man, and I put the green market tile. I wouldn't get 2 green points because the king guy was there. I would only get 1 green point. Now, the Green Traitor also has a special ability. Limes for sale. He collects treasures. When 2 treasures are connected, whoever has the green piece gets the treasure. Now, what are treasures? The treasures are the natural colored pieces that start the board on the starting spaces. And when 2 of those starting temples get connected, if you have that Green Traitor there, you get to pick up one of those, and those are going to help you at the end of the game because those count as a wild point. You can count them as black, blue, red, or green, and you don't have to decide what they are until the end of the game. So those can be very valuable. So that is the special ability of the Green Traitor. Limes for sale. So laying tiles is one way to score points. If I have the red and blue piece on the board, I can just keep laying a red tile and a blue tile every turn, and I would get a red point and a blue point every single turn. So that's one way, but it's not very efficient. There's a quicker way to get points, and that is through being adjacent to monuments. That's what we're going to talk about next. You want to build a monument because they'll give you boatloads of points. How do you build a monument? You need to have a square of the same color of tile. For example, if I wanted to build a red monument because I had my red priest in a kingdom, praise the great god Ketchup, I would have to get 4 tiles in a square, a 2x2 square, somewhere in that kingdom. So temple, 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 temple. I have a square there. Now I can flip those over to make a red monument. When you flip them over, they have a little building space on them. And then you get to choose which of the monuments you would like. At the beginning of the game, there are 6 different monuments. If I built with red, I had a square of red tiles, I had to pick a red monument. Now there is the red and green monument, or the red and blue monument, or the red and black monument. I get to choose. If I had, say, the blue leader in that same kingdom, I'd want to pick the red and blue monument, because that's going to give me extra points. Now later in the game, someone might have already built the red and blue monument, so I just have to pick from what was available. Once a monument is built in this game, it stays there forever. It can never go away. So what does that monument do for you? If you have the red leader in that kingdom, and you have a red monument in that kingdom, you're going to get to score 1 red point at the end of every turn that you stay in that kingdom. If you had the red and the blue leader, you would get a red and a blue point every single turn just for staying there. Now, staying there can be trickier than you think, but we'll get to that later in conflicts. You could even have a red priest in a kingdom with 2 red monuments. Maybe this was a very large kingdom, and you had a red and blue monument on one side and a red and green monument on the other side, but they're all connected. You would get 2 red points every turn. Now, it's possible that you and one of your opponents is sharing this monument. For example, maybe you built this red monument, and it was red and blue, but you didn't have a blue leader there. So the person on their next turn, they say, ooh, that looks like a very nice monument. And they take their blue farmer piece, and they drop him in there, and now they will be getting a piece from that monument. But you don't really mind because you're getting a piece too, and everyone's happy for now. Now remember the king's special ability about it doesn't matter what tile you lay, you still get that colored point? This does not work for monuments. So if I had the black king in a kingdom with a red monument, he's not going to get me that point from the monument. It only works for tile laying. Now if you look at the board, you'll immediately see that there's only one spot on the board with 4 river tiles that make a square. So that's the only place that you can build a monument with blue. Now there are those other monuments, and say that square is taken, how you would build the other ones is maybe you build a monument with black and then you take the black and blue one. So don't worry, the other ones are still going to be able to be built. There's a few things to be aware of when you go after building a monument. You may build an L shape. You have 3 parts of the 4 needed to build that monument, and pass the turn. Your turn will be over. You don't have any more actions. Now, a couple things could happen. One of the other players maybe they finish that monument for you, and you were building it with blue, and you were hoping for it to be blue and red, but they make it blue and green and put their green guy in there. So be aware, if you leave something like that, someone might come in there and finish it for you and make it a color that you particularly don't want. Now, other players could even sabotage your attempt to build a monument. Say you had that L shape of 3 red tiles, temple, 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 and there's one more spot you're hoping to build that last temple on your next turn, and you leave it there. Particularly nasty player, maybe they drop in a green tile in there, thus spoiling that spot from being able to build a monument there. That is completely legal. Players can drop tiles anywhere on the board. They don't necessarily have to be connected to them. So just keep your eye out for that. Monuments are very strong. A big part of winning this game involves being in kingdoms with monuments as soon as possible. In fact, an ideal situation is having every one of your leaders in a kingdom with its respective colored monument adjacent, meaning you're scoring 1 point per turn of every color. Maybe you have one kingdom with a green and a black leader, and there's a green and black monument there. And somewhere else you have another kingdom with a blue and a red leader, and they're connected to a blue and a red temple, and you've got those kingdoms, and you're just collecting a point every single turn from red, blue, black, and green. That's huge. And at the same time, you could be laying tiles to score more points. If you're able to hold this position for a long period of time, you'll probably win the game. Now, it's important to remember to get your points at the end of the turn. Don't forget. And when you're first learning this game, try to help each other. When someone passes that tile bag, says they're done, ask them, did you get your monument points? And it's good just to clear up for people at the end of each turn. Just tell people, I scored 1 red, 1 blue, and 1 black point this turn. Just so people know before you put them behind your screen and they become hidden forever. So remember I said if they hold that position.